Hi there, Somerset Hills. This is Pete Morris. I am a graduate student and friend of Colleen's. And what I'm doing is just providing a couple of overviews for some different technology tools that could be used, well, both in the classroom and for remote learning, or for any kind of a blended instruction model. So just a little bit about me. I'm a fifth grade teacher. I teach over in Byram at the intermediate school there. I teach science, I teach social studies, and I'm a big proponent of technological integration to benefit students and teachers in learning. Um, I totally recognize that tech is a tool that can be used differently by different people. And I recognize that students, teachers, all of us, we have different levels of familiarity with tech and different levels of understanding with it. And it's just depending on the tool that you use, it can be a really great way to, just bolster student understanding, whether at a low level, high level, anywhere in between, it doesn't really matter. But in the situation that we're in now, teachers, we are needing to really learn it on the fly. And get good at it. So one of the tools that I really like in my classroom, and this is something that I've used, before remote learning, before we went out in March, and something that I'll continue to use in any format is Pear Deck. So Pear Deck is a tool that allows you to really customize your Google Slides presentations. So Google Slides is something that teachers use a lot of time to deliver instruction and content, and students can take notes and they can learn new information. And obviously, Google Slides is great. But what Pear Deck does is it allows that slideshow to become an interactive experience for your students. And that's what I find really beneficial about it. So we're going to go over some of the ways to do that today. Um, yeah, let's jump in. So with Pear Deck, there are a couple of ways to get to it. It is what we call an add-on for Google Slides, meaning it's a tool that Google offers that supplements Google Slides. It's not its own program per se. So there's a couple of ways to do this. So the first way that we're going to do, and I'm going to get rid of my face down here. You don't need to see me. You just need to hear me and see what I'm doing on here. So we're going to go to peardeck.com. And there we go. Okay. So this is just the Pear Deck website. This isn't, in my opinion, the best way to get Pear Deck working, but I just want to show you how we do it. So you can go over to your teacher login here. Now, Pear Deck, like so many of these other great tools, um, is integrated with Google. So I've just logged in. What you'll need to do is just click to continue with your Google account and just follow the prompts there, and it should get you right to this screen. So now that you're on this screen, one way that you could work Pear Deck is to click Create a Lesson. All right, so it's just loading up my Google Slides account here. That's why it's taken a minute or two. It can integrate right into your Google Slides. So we'll just give it a sec here to boot up. And we'll try refreshing. It's taking a little longer than it normally would. Okay, so this doesn't want to seem to be loading up for us right now, but that's okay. Maybe that's a sign saying, you know what, this isn't the best way to use Pear Deck anyways. So let's go to the way that I find more effective anyways. So, as I mentioned before, what Pear Deck is it's an add-on for Google Slides. It allows you to take your existing slides presentations, like I have down here, and modify them and upgrade them using some interactive slides. So as it's called an add-on, here's what we're going to do. What I have here is I just opened up a a slideshow. This is just a PD presentation that an amazing colleague of mine, Megan Phillips, and I put together for a middle school presentation last year. So just bring up a slideshow. And then I said before, this is called an add-on. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the tabs up here. All right. And you see there is one just called add-ons. So we're going to go ahead and click that. Now I've got it on here already, but I'm going to show you how to get Pear Deck. You would go to the Get Add-ons selection here, choose that. And now you're going to see a whole bunch of add-ons. Pear Deck is a really popular one, so it might pop up on your screen right here like it would on mine. But if you don't see it, you can just search the marketplace here. Start typing in Pear Deck and you'll see it pop up. Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on. And then you're just going to click that. Now, what you should see here if you don't have it is a button that says install instead of uninstall. So you're just going to go ahead and install your Pear Deck add-on. All right, so now we've got our add-on installed. So let's see how to open it up. So we're going to go up here to the tabs again, click on add-ons. Now you should see Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on as one of your options. If you don't see it, you're just going to need to go back to Get Add-ons and add that to your Google arsenal here. So we're going to go ahead and hover over that, Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on, and then open Pear Deck add-on. Okay, so if you notice here, what popped up on my screen is this menu right over here. And that's all that's going to happen. You know, it's a pretty simple interface here, which is nice because it does some really cool stuff, but it kind of lays it out step by step for you here. So I've got my Pear Deck menu over here. So let's take a look at some of the things that Pear Deck can do, which again, I think really take a traditional way of teaching and learning and just improves it in terms of bolstering these slideshows a little bit. Okay, so there's a bunch of things that we can do here. We're going to go one at a time. I'm just going to go over a few of them. Some of the big ones, some of the main components here for Pear Deck, and then you can explore in your own time. So when we're looking at the menu here, Pear Deck is one of these apps that has a free feature and then a premium version as well. So the free version, I think, has plenty of really useful stuff. The premium version has a lot of extra pieces, which are great. But if we're just kind of getting the feel of it, the free version has plenty of tools to work with here for Pear Deck. So let's look at a couple of different things here. One of the ones that I like that's relatively new to Pear Deck is to add audio. So this is great. What you can do here as a teacher, if you are assigning a slideshow for students to work through on their own time, like we may be doing, with virtual learning, it really helps to have your voice in that slideshow so that you can connect with the students and you can emphasize the points that you need to emphasize. It's like you're right there sitting with them. And Google Slides, for as many awesome features as it has, it doesn't have something like this built in, like Microsoft PowerPoint might. So if we want to put our own voice into a slide, we can click Add Audio to Slide. Okay, so again, pretty simple, not too many buttons to worry about here, which I always appreciate. So let's say what I could do here is if I have a song or some other audio file, that I've recorded already or that's online, I can upload it from my computer. But I think the real key way to use this here is to record your own voice. And they've got a big old red button for that. So that's always helpful. So if we click this, and let's see, I'm doing my gamification presentation, so I might just want to introduce people to this slideshow. All right, so welcome to our Gamification 101 presentation. In this slideshow, we're going to be talking about some of the ways to incorporate gamification in your classroom and how to really engage students with games. Okay, cool. So I can pause it if I want to regroup, get my thoughts together and then continue. I think that that's probably fine. So I'm going to click Save. And again, this is great. I can click the play button here to listen back to my audio file so I can make sure I didn't, sound silly or say too much, which is something I need to worry about sometimes. There we go. That's the perfect example. And I can play this back and I can listen to it. Now, let's say I played it back. I like it. I'm going to add this audio to this slide. Okay. So you can see here now this little gray box has popped up in the top right corner of my slideshow. So as students are working through this slideshow, when they get to this slide, they can click that link and they can listen to my audio presentation. It's really easy for them. It says right there, audio included. It's kind of hard to miss here if you're working through the slideshow, especially if you just tell your students beforehand, hey, I'm going to be speaking during the slideshow. Make sure you click on that audio link. And that's it. That's how you do that. You can do that on as many slides as you want. Maybe there's some you just want the students to read. Maybe there's some you want to add some extra information. Or again, I really believe just the students hearing our voices in these times is really a great way for them to connect to us, even if we're not sitting in the same room. So this is a really useful tool to to get your voice into that slideshow. So definitely something I'd recommend trying out is the add audio feature. I think it's a really great one. Okay, so now let's move on and let's look at a couple of other pieces here. So one way to engage your students in a slideshow, again, that they otherwise may be reading through, a little too quickly, as we know sometimes happens if they're not being monitored. We can pop questions into our slideshow. So we can make sure that the students are gaining the understandings that we're intending for them to gain. So let's see, let's pop down here. Okay, and again, this is just another slideshow from another presentation that I'm just using to kind of show you here. So you don't need to worry about the gamification pieces here. This is just a template. So what I might want to do is add a question. Now, if you look over here again, we're on our menu. It's not too long right off the bat. We did the audio, so we're going to go to this section that says Ask Students a Question, and that adds a question to the slide that we're on. So I'm on this slide right here about games motivating the players. That's one of the great pieces about gamification. I can add a question. Okay. So I'm going to update the slide here. And all that last one was I can either have the students answer the question here, or I can post the question on the board and have them answer it. So in this case, I just clicked OK. I would post the question on the board and have the students answer this question. So I'm going to get rid of that, the text one. And I think a better way to do this, especially if we're working remotely, would be a multiple choice question. So I'm going to click the choice option over on the menu there. And this one makes it a little easier here. So again, I would post the question to the students or present it to them or ask that, give it to them. And I would ask, what is a key component of gamification? These are my three options. So now when the students get to this in the actual presentation, if I pose the question, they would be able to choose an option once they get to it. We're not seeing them right now because this is going to be up in the student version. So that's why we're not seeing the question or the answers right now. But when they would work through the presentation, and I'm going to show you how to share this lesson at the end, they would see those options presented to them. So again, if you're a math teacher, maybe you have a question where there's a number response. You can choose the number question, or maybe you just want them to go check out a different website. You can post the link using one of these as well. So that's just how you ask students a question. Those tools I think are helpful. but they may be used more if you're, let's say you're designing a game in Google Slides, and you have the students answering questions for the game as they go through the presentation. That might be a really great way to do that. But I don't think it's the most interactive way to use Pear Deck. So, check it out. But there are some other useful tools here that we're going to check out as well. So, oh, and by the way, if you look at these 4 options here, those are available in the free version. Just the text, choice, number, and website. If you look down here at draw and draggable, those are premium features. So that means if we just have the free version, we can't use those. But if you were to upgrade to the premium version, you would be able to have students draw their responses or drag little dots around a slide as well. So something to check out. But now we're going to check out what I really like to use Pear Deck for. And that's to engage the students, to see how they're feeling, to see if they can answer questions in kind of a more structured way. So let's pick another slideshow to play with here. And we're going to go to the template library. This is where I think the student feedback really comes into play. Okay, so there's a couple of things to look at in the template library. And again, I just went over to my menu here. I clicked Our Template Library. So we've got what we call lesson builders. And this is what I really like the most about Pear Deck, I think. You can put some slides into your presentation that assess the students at the beginning of a lesson, see how they're feeling, what they know, to kind of get their brains warmed up. You can assess them during the lesson just to make sure nobody's tuning out on you or anything like that, just to make sure that the students are with you. And you can assess them at the end of the lesson to have them reflect on their learning, to have them complete an exit ticket, to have them, prove that they've learned what you wanted them to learn. So let's take a look at a couple of these. If we click beginning of lesson, all of these options pop up. So let's pick this one. So I'm going to click that template right there, and you're going to see it's just going to plop it right into my slideshow. So this just becomes a slide, just like I've already had. So I can drag it up and down if I want. Remember, this is a beginning of the lesson slide. So maybe I want to put this right up here. So we'll do gamification, and then draw or type 2 things that you already know about today's topics. So I can leave this just like it is. I think these warm-up questions, the more generic, the better. You want the students to turn their brains on, right? You want them to get thinking about how they can connect to this. What do they know? Kind of, put the ball in their court, if you will. Have them open their minds. But if I want to, I can customize this as well. So draw or type 2 things you already know about. Let's say gamification. Simple, really simple, but now I've just taken this really generic slide and I've customized it to my own personal slideshow. So again, once you drop the slides in there, they become your slides. You can edit them. You can do whatever you would like with them. We can drag things around, move things, whatever we want to do. So you can definitely play with that. There's a lot on here. Maybe I want to know how the homework assignment was for the students. I'm going to click this slide, and it's going to drop this slideshow in here, and we'll see how this works. But what this is a draggable slide. So if you look down at the bottom here, it says students drag the icon. When you're presenting this slideshow to your students, on their screen, this is going to pop up with a little dot that they can drag. And then you as the teacher are going to be able to see where everyone put their little dots. And again, don't worry about what that looks like right now. Once we're done playing with our slideshow here, I'm going to show you the student view as well, so you can see exactly what we're looking at and what I'm talking about here. So those are some really good ways to kind of turn on the brains, get ready for learning. Now, let's take a look at our during lesson. And these are pretty generic slides that you can plop anywhere in your lesson. So let's go with, all right. So let's check in. Let's say I get through a big chunk of my presentation. And I just want to know, okay, let's pause here for a minute. Um, Tell me how you're feeling. Do you get what we're talking about? Where are we at? So as a teacher, you can use this feedback in the middle of your lesson to adjust and adapt as you go. If you see a bunch of students are understanding it, good, we're feeling great, let's keep moving. If we see a bunch of students saying, stop, I need help, it really lets us know, okay, I need to go back, I need to go over some of the concepts I'm talking about. And the best part about this, I mean, obviously, is you're not asking your students to stick their hand up in the middle of the class and say, I don't get it. And we all know elementary school, middle school, high school, adulthood, it doesn't matter. Nobody wants to be that person, right? So it's really, really difficult for our students, especially, I mean, I teach middle school. The last thing a middle schooler is going to do is raise their hand in front of their peers and say, I don't understand, please stop and go back. So this is a good way to do this anonymously and so that you as the teacher can adjust your lesson as you go. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the end of the lesson assessments. Okay, so let's do a little reflection slide. I'm going to go down to the bottom of my slideshow here. And again, remember, I can drag these slides wherever I want once I've got them in there, just like it's my own personal slideshow. But let's go down here and let's add a reflection slide. So now my students, as when we get to this part of the slideshow, they're going to have a chance to type some of their own thoughts and their reflections on the activity today. And again, guys, I can customize this as I want to. So let's say instead of just what was hard, say what don't I understand about gamification. Again, that's like just I think a really cool part. They give you so many templates that are great, but then they let you customize them on top of that. So maybe I want to customize that. So now I've got in my slideshow, and again, I'm not going to go through each of these. You can see these as you go, but they're all really good end of lesson, reflection, share your knowledge type of slides. Okay, so I've got some slides in there. Now, let's see, I want to get a little deeper with my custom slides. Instead of just the before, during, and after lesson slides, let's go back into our template library. And I want to check out some of these critical thinking and social emotional learning slides. This is under the Learning Development tab. So if I were to, let's find a spot here. Oh, we're just playing now. So let's say I wanted, let's say I wasn't doing a slideshow on gamification. Let's say I was doing a slideshow on The Outsiders, right? Great book. And one that I think really teaches us some different perspectives. So I might throw this slide in there, consider different viewpoints. Now the students, when they get to this slideshow, they're going to be tasked with, filling in this information. What's my point of view? What's another point of view? I mean, visually it's cool. It's engaging. It looks neat. I think the kids will relate to it. And it really gives you that critical thinking. So there's slides in here, again, just to remind you where I am. In the Our Template Library tab, under Learning Development, I'm checking out some of the critical thinking slides that I can drop into my slideshow. I can also put some social emotional learning, which, granted, technology is not the best way to reach our students in the SEL world. Well, that's a whole nother story. But it's a good way to it's something good that Pear Deck has here to at least just check in and make sure our students are doing okay, even if we can't sit down and have that conversation with them at the moment. This might lead to that conversation later on. So we'll put a stress check in here. Okay, so again, this doesn't necessarily need to be during a content focused lesson, but whatever your slideshow may be on, we just want to check in with our kids, make sure they're okay. Pear Deck does give us a way to do that. So the students here would drag their their little icon to I feel good, or man, I am struggling with with my emotions at the moment. So, this can be something that we can use to check in with stress. And again, there's a lot here. What do you think? There are some that just say take a stretch break, just chill for a minute. But this allows us to just check in with the kids, make sure they're doing okay, if we want to use this tool. All right. Okay, so we've gone through some of the generic slides. Again, I'm just to make sure we're all feeling okay here, just remind you, this is our Pear Deck menu, and I'm just in our template library. We've gone over lesson builders. We've gone over learning development. And now Pear Deck does have some specific subject areas for you to work with. Before we get into this, my thought with these is these are going to be the slides that definitely require some customization on our part as the teacher, as you can probably guess. If we want to really zero in on specific content that we're learning, generic slide templates maybe won't fully cut it, but it gives us a great place to start. So let's jump somewhere else in our slideshow here. And again, I know that this isn't specifically related to math or science or social studies, but for the purposes of learning Pear Deck, we'll just say that I'm in the middle of a science slideshow right now. So I can click my science tab, and I have a lot of slide templates here that are specific to what I may be going over in science. So let's say I'm teaching chemistry, and we're learning about the periodic table, but I want my students to understand what an atomic model looks like. Now, I teach science, and I've had my students do this on paper. It's something I always like to try to do. But Pear Deck would allow us to do this virtually because this year paper may be a difficult way to go. So once the students get to this point, they're going to be able to draw on this slide. So they're going to be able to show us where are the protons, where are the neutrons, where are the electrons, how many of them are there, and kind of create their own atomic model here. Let's say I'm a language arts teacher. All right, doing some grammar today. This is another dragging slide. Again, we've seen, there are dragging slides, there are drawing slides, there are typing slides. I can have my students drag dots to the nouns here. So again, maybe something that we would have done in the past on the big board together, now we can have the students do individually, at their seats. So kind of a good way to adapt to the situation that we're in here. And like I said before, this is totally customizable. Maybe I am learning about adjectives, instead of nouns. I can customize this. I can change my sentences here. For whatever grade level I may be teaching. Obviously, third grade grammar is going to look a lot different than 11th grade grammar. And those are really the tools. Again, in my opinion, it is a lot. It is not something that we need to be totally familiar with right off the bat, but I think that the way that they structure it here in Pear Deck makes it manageable and really allows us to kind of, play and click on the different links to see what we can learn and what we can include here. All right. So that is how to set up your Pear Deck presentation. What I want to show you before we end up here is what it looks like for the students, because that's obviously a big part of Pear Deck, or any tool. Student interactivity is, if it's not clear and the students can't do it, there's no point to it. So let's click Start Lesson here. Let's say I'm good. Okay, I've added everything into my slideshow that I want. It's ready to go. Start my lesson. Okay, you're going to have two choices here. You can either make your slideshow student-paced, and what that means, as we can probably guess here, is the students work through the slideshow on their own. They're still required to participate in each of the interactive slides as they go. So they're not going to get off the hook for answering any questions if they're doing it on their own. But if you can't be there with them, or you can't be communicating with your students, if you're doing any kind of asynchronous instruction, this is the way to go. I think that instructor paced is better when possible. So whether we're in the building, and again, I've done this sitting at a table with my students. I've worked through Pear Decks with them. It doesn't need to be a remote learning activity, but if you're able to do synchronous instruction, I think instructor-paced activity is the way to go. So let's click on that. And what that means is you, as the teacher, are controlling the pace of the slideshow. You are clicking from slide to slide, bringing your students along with you. And that allows everyone to stay on the same page so you can see the student feedback and you can also have discussions with your kids as you need to. All right, so I'm going to open up a new tab here. Now this is the instruction for your student. Your students are going to go to joinpd.com. So let's do that first. Cool, easy. All right, so it just asks for a code. Here's your code, KAXBX, keen avocados, X-ray, broke X-rays. That's fun. KAXBX, okay. All right, so this is the first thing that it always asks. How you feeling? Feeling good. Ready to rock. And it loads up the presentation. So again, this is the student view that you're looking at the moment. This is the instructor view. You can see I've got one student in. That's me. Weird. And for today, cool. That's enough. I'm going to start my class as soon as all your students are in. All right. So this is the student view. The student can click the audio link and listen to my overview there. This is the instructor view. Now, here's what's cool about this. Well, one of the many things. I'm going to go to the next slide on my instructor view here. On my student view, you see it brings me to the next slide. I don't need to click anything. So now it has, I can either type, draw or type two things right now. It's fun. And I can draw. I like games. Games make me happy. So there you go. Your students can all participate in this. They can draw, they can type. All right. And here's the instructor view. I don't see my responses coming up, but I can. If I go down here to show responses, I see what I just did on my student screen. So when you're the instructor, if you have 20 students participating in your slideshow, you're going to have 20 little boxes pop up here where you can see what your students already know. And a great practice, I think, is to show this to your students. Share this with everyone so everyone can kind of be on the same page and know what's going on. So that is kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Same thing here. How was the homework assignment? Okay, here's my student slide. I have my little draggable dot. I hated homework. I didn't want to do it. I'm going to give it a big old thumbs down. So back to my instructor view. Let's show the responses. Oh no! My students gave my homework a thumbs down. Maybe this is a great opportunity for me as a teacher to stop and go over it. And again, that's the value of the feedback that Pear Deck gives you. So we're not going to go through the entire thing here. But again, just as I click through on the teacher view, it clicks through on the student view. It allows everyone to stay on the same page. And that is the beauty of Pear Deck. So again, great tool, free version. There are a lot of tools, but it does help you walk through it. And if you're watching this and you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you with this. I love Pear Deck. Plus, it doesn't hurt that the little guy here is super adorable. So very cute, great, makes a great sticker. That is Pear Deck. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you guys so much for watching.